Talking health-related matters now, a 300-level medical student of Niger Delta University, Ammasoma Southern Ijaw Local Government Area of Bayelsa State has committed suicide for failing to pass his examination. It was gathered that the student, identified as Uzakah Ebiweni, dived into the Amassoma River and drowned before help could get to him. Sources at the university said a few hours after the incident, another student attempted to kill himself by running into a fast-moving commercial motorcycle but was immediately rescued by students. Ebiweni, a student of surgery and medicine at the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, decided to kill himself following his failure to realize his dreams. He was said to have been among students who failed in the results that were released on Friday last week. And the school's public relations officer, who also confirmed the incident, said that Ebiweni's body has been recovered and deposited at the mortuary over there. Now, joining us live in our Lagos studio, we have Dr. Memuna Kadiri, a clinical psychologist. Good to have you join us, Doctor. Now, May is known as the month of Mental Health Awareness Month. It's really a sad mood right now because we see this month so far has been characterized by a whole lot of deaths, suicide, and it's still a case where not so many people understand depressive tendencies because this is highly linked to suicidal tendencies as well. We as a people don't understand the trends, the way they manifest, even the call for help. Looking at just last year alone, the last 8 months alone, we've seen so many students and lecturers fall victim, taking their own lives. How do we begin to address this situation?
Well, I would, at this point, quickly want to put that suicide happening in Nigeria is not just a Nigerian thing, it's global. And it's actually, with statistics, it shows that for every 40 seconds, somebody somewhere in the world is dying from suicide. So the question now is that, are we seeing a rise in suicide or are we seeing a rise in copycat suicide?
When I say copycat suicide, some will question, what does that really mean?
So copycat suicide, it is the name for the layman, but it's actually called what we in medicine what we call the Wader's effect. It means a particular or certain cases of suicide that have been, publicly announced in details with how they.
And this is a trigger for subsequent ones to come.
So people then identify with those cases and begin to start. So if he plunged into the river, so I can do it. If he took insecticides, I can do it. That's why here in Nigeria we use the word sniper a lot, but it may not necessarily be sniper. It may be another form of insecticide. Yeah, exactly. So I believe we shouldn't make it an epidemic. There may be an increase, but let's not see it as if, oh, there's not an epidemic of suicide in Nigeria. No. It's more like we are beginning to be more aware that these cases are real, that people are killing themselves, and that is why we need the conversation to start.
Would also, quickly, Doctor, some would also say, is there any excuse or validation to really take your own life? Because looking at some of the reasons that have been given, for example, the students failing an examination, we look at the likes of Ijaw University of Ilorin, who had to take his own life for the fact that he was accused of plagiarizing his then current research work, and others just in a depressive mood where they are not happy with life.
So the thing is that what are the pressures that these people had before? That individual that took his life, whether in school or at home, you can't take that individual away from other areas of where he could have been. So for example, those students that took their lives, what have they been at home? What have they been experiencing? Could it be that what happened to them, maybe failing exam or being accused of plagiarism, are triggers? So if they've been dealing with challenges that people are not really noticing, or they've trivialized their issues, or they're even in denial, maybe those could be triggers for them to validate themselves that, after all, we are not really worthy of living when everything is falling apart.
But does it really take the pain away?
No, the thing now is that when people die from suicide, did they really set out to die, or they just wanted the pain to end. So a lot of times you find out that people just wanted the pain to end. They just wanted to escape from the difficulties that they were having, but somehow it ended up, you know, in death. So that is why, like I said, advocacy via the media and people learning what the warning signs are, so that when people are going through those challenges, it's easy for you to say, okay, I think I have this click.
How do we know the warning signs? Because even if you look at, I keep on going back to Adigun's case, because he also posted on social media as well.
That was a preventable death. That was because when it happened, I woke up with a lot of people tagging me on, and I actually went to the social media platform. He was saying everything that could have told anyone that really cared about him to check him out. Ask him, how are you? No, really, how are you?
But we all say we are fine. But if really we are masking a whole lot of emotions.
If he really had people really that cared about him, they would have known he was going, because a lot of death things were on those words he wrote out, how and life will end and all that. So quick rundown on warning signs for suicide. Is PAT, warm. Is, I-S, PAT, P-A-T-H, then warm as in W-A-R-M. Is ideation. You ask for suicide ideation. Every hospital anybody walks into now, every physician should be bold enough and be very clear. Are you having suicidal thoughts? Ask it right. Don't say, have you been thinking, or have you had...
No,
don't massage it. Say it, because it may be the reason why the person came into the emergency room. And by the time he or she goes away and that wasn't asked, just say, I even came for help.
What's your message to the everyday Nigerian now? Because we, like you say, we have to ask those tough questions. But even within the work environment or having friends, sometimes we don't really want to open too much of people seeing the reality, because we become vulnerable in their hands. Because there are some days that I can't explain why I'm sad. I really just feel really down. Some would say you have a good life and you have good prospects.
These
but
are the assumptions that are killing us. Those assumptions, we are human beings. At times, we are vulnerable. And is there any shame for you to show your vulnerability? No, absolutely no. The many things of, I am fine, it is well, it is not my portion, God is in control, is killing us. We need to be real. We need to show our emotions and let people understand what truly you are dealing with, so that when you really need help, will come your way.
Okay, doctor. Now, as we're rounding up conversations now, according to the Federal Ministry of Health, 30% of Nigerians suffer from mental illness, and we only have 250 psychiatrists in the country. Sadly, the lowest, one of the lowest in the world, having to cater for 60 million people who have mental illness cases, and the biggest stock of an additional no less than 120 more, comprising, let's say, 180 to 200 million people. How do we begin to address this deficit?
We are going to be fewer in the next 3 to 6 months.
That's not good.
No, in the next 3 to 6 months, about 10, 15 or 15, 20 are leaving for greener pasture. So it's time for us to begin to build capacity. It's time for us to, so we shouldn't just look at everybody must be a psychiatrist, because being a psychiatrist means you have to go to medical school first. We have to go back to the primary health care center. Can we train the trainers? Can we get the community health workers to be trained about certain aspects on, pick the mental illnesses on time so that there can be early intervention? Can we get other doctors that are not psychiatrists to be involved if we are having a large population of Nigerians?
Doctor, we are really pressed for time, and I would have loved a longer conversation. But what's also your take on the Lunacy Act of 1958? So many people have described this as unnecessarily outdated.
Outdated, completely. So the mental health bill is yet to be passed. It's still a bill. It's not yet an act. We are hoping the 9th National Assembly comes on board and we get it passed.
Hopefully, as we are starting off on May 29, we have a clean slate, and June 12, we have a clearer description of how we are taking the country forward, especially looking at health. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Dr. Memuna Kadiri. Thank you very much.